You ever have one of those mornings where you roll out of bed to the sound of pure chaos and you just know today's the day, everything's going to change? That's how it was for me. The day Karen Stonefield, the self-appointed queen of Lakeside Estates, called the cops on my 74-year-old grandfather for fishing off our own dock. She came at him like he was dumping toxic waste in the water, screaming about community standards, and waving her hand around like she could summon law enforcement just by snapping her fingers. But you know what really got her? My granddad reached into his jacket, pulled out this little piece of paper, and you could see every ounce of smugness drain right off her face. The woman who ruled this HOA like it was her personal kingdom. Suddenly she's shaking, stammering. How do you have that? That's impossible. I mean, you want to talk about a plot twist right there on the dock at sunrise. Let me back up a second. I'm Ethan. I grew up with Grandpa Ted after losing my parents, and Lakeside Estates has been my whole world since I was 8. That Sunday morning started like any other, him fishing for bass, me barely awake, and then boom, the whole HOA parade rolls up. Karen dressed like she's heading to a boardroom, not a Lakeside, flanked by her yes-men accusing Grandpa of breaking some new emergency regulation they supposedly passed at midnight. She had this printout acting like it was the Magna Carta declaring private docks were now forbidden zones for fishing. The nerve, honestly. So I step outside, jeans barely buttoned, and ask what kind of HOA meeting happens at 11 p.m. on a Saturday with 3 people, and no notice to anyone. Karen didn't like being challenged. She turned that icy stare on me and told me to mind my own business. But I'm not one of the quiet retirees she likes to push around. I'm 28. I analyze data for a living, and I've spent the past 5 years watching her pull this crap on every neighbor she thinks won't fight back. This time I wasn't having it. Then I see her discreetly filming Grandpa building some kind of evidence file, probably hoping to catch him losing his temper so she could spin the story in her favor. That's when it clicked. She's not just picking a fight, she's planning a campaign. So I did what anybody with a smartphone and a grudge would do. I went live on Facebook. "Good morning, Lakeside," I said. "Here's Karen Stonefield trying to stop my grandpa from fishing on his own dock." Within minutes, the chat was blowing up, people tagging news stations, sending fire emojis siding with us. Karen lost her cool, tried to tell me I couldn't film her. But hey, public space, right? Well, she didn't like losing control, so she called the cops 911, full drama. She told the dispatcher there was a trespasser refusing to leave the common property. I yelled out loud enough for the cop to hear. "This is his dock. She's lying." When the police arrived, Karen was still in character painting Grandpa as some kind of lakefront outlaw. But that's when the real show started. Grandpa, calm as ever, pulls out that folded piece of paper, and I swear Karen went so pale I thought she'd faint. She whispered, "How do you have that? That's impossible," like she'd just seen a ghost. But before he could explain, Grandpa clutched his chest and dropped right there on the dock. The paper, the bombshell that had Karen shaking, caught the wind and landed in the lake. I dove in, trying to grab it, but it was gone. Ambulance sirens, chaos, my whole world flipped upside down. The next few hours were a blur. Hospital waiting rooms, bad coffee doctors speaking in riddles. I kept checking my phone, and that Facebook Live was now blowing up with tens of thousands of views. Turns out a lot of people have horror stories about HOAs and were hungry for someone to stand up to the petty dictators running their neighborhoods. I was getting messages from total strangers, hashtags like "Justice for Ted" trending, people demanding to know what was really going on. When the doc said Grandpa was stable, I stepped out for air and nearly bumped right into Karen in the parking lot. She wasn't carrying flowers out of the goodness of her heart. She was fishing for information, trying to find out if I knew what that paper really meant. She had history with my family. I just didn't know it yet. When I visited Grandpa, even laid up, he was cracking jokes about my viral video, but his eyes were serious. "Ethan, there's things about this place I should have told you years ago," he said. "I thought keeping quiet would protect you. Maybe I was wrong." That night, back at the cabin, I tore into every digital record I could find, property deeds, old emails, HOA files. Turns out the emergency fishing ban was passed with barely a quorum, 3 board members at midnight. But the real kicker was what I found in Grandpa's old folders, photos of him shaking hands with a federal judge by a sign that read, "Protected Wetland Area Emails," talking about Stonefield Development's failed bid to buy up the lake for a luxury resort. And wait for it, Karen Stonefield was on those emails as a junior legal assistant. So this whole thing, it wasn't random. She'd been trying to erase our family's legal rights for decades. Right about then, I heard glass breaking downstairs. Pulled up my security cams, and sure enough, there's Karen in our living room, rifling through Grandpa's desk like she's looking for gold. She was searching for that document, and now I had video proof of her breaking and entering. Next morning, I take it to Officer Martinez. Same cop from the lake. He just shrugs, says the footage is grainy, claims Karen's a respected member of the community. That's when I knew I was on my own. But I wasn't totally alone. By now, the Facebook group I started, Save Lakeside Heritage, was booming. Residents came forward with their own stories, fines for mailbox colors, threats, overparked trucks, all under Karen's iron thumb. And then out of the blue, I got a message from Riley Martinez, a local blogger who'd been tracking HOA abuse statewide. She showed up the next day with a war chest of evidence, and together we mapped out Karen's web of petty tyranny, targeting older residents, stacking the deck at every meeting. Karen didn't just fight back. She launched a smear campaign, slick website, edited videos accusing us of poisoning the lake, calling me a social media terrorist. Then the power to our cabin got shut off. No warning, just a line about emergency maintenance authorized by the HOA. It was war. That night, the hospital called. Grandpa wanted to talk. He was ready to spill everything. Turns out in the 90s, he was the county's senior environmental engineer. Stonefield Development tried to buy up the lake, drain it, and build condos. Grandpa found endangered species, proved the lake was crucial for drinking water, and refused their bribe to fudge the report. The feds came in, issued a permanent wetland protection order naming our family as guardians. That document, it means the HOA can't touch any waterfront property without our approval. Karen knew. She'd lost her job fighting that order decades ago, and now she was covering it up, trying to wipe us out so she could finally get what she wanted. Next day, we went to the bank with Marcus Chen, Grandpa's old friend and attorney, and pulled out the original protection order. The bank manager said a woman, Karen, had tried to access Grandpa's safety deposit box the week before. She wasn't just desperate, she was getting sloppy. Then came the emergency HOA meeting. Karen, trying to officially kick us out, had packed the room with her allies, bribed fence sitters, and stirred up the crowd with manipulated videos. But we were ready. When she called the vote, Riley streamed me and Grandpa walking to the front, and I held up the federal order for all to see. "You've been operating under fraudulent authority," I told her, "and every fine you've issued is illegal." When Marcus backed me up and Riley projected footage of Karen breaking in, redirecting HOA funds, and installing illegal surveillance cameras all over the neighborhood, you could hear the air go out of the room. The clincher. 2 guys in dark suits stood up, federal agents. "Ma'am, we need to speak to you about violations of the Federal Wetlands Protection Act." Karen tried to protest, but it was over. She was escorted out while residents started shouting questions, demanding refunds, and turning their anger where it belonged. In the weeks that followed, the dominoes just kept falling. Karen got hit with federal charges, embezzlement, illegal surveillance, fraud. The HOA's books got audited, neighbors got their money back, and Lakeside Estates became a case study in what happens when bullies overplay their hand. Grandpa got stronger every day, and I got offered the HOA presidency not for power, but to make sure nothing like this ever happened again. The most cinematic part. Sitting on our dock at sunset, fishing with Grandpa while neighbors wandered by, laughing, finally free from fear. The federal order hangs in the community center now, and Riley's coverage turned our story into a rallying cry for HOAs everywhere. Even Karen in court before her sentencing looked me in the eye and apologized, said she became the thing she was trying to escape. 6 months later, our community's the healthiest it's ever been. The Facebook group's now a place for volunteers and block parties, and a publisher picked up my story as a guide to fighting HOA abuse. The royalties paid for a new dock and scholarships for local kids. Turns out the best revenge is helping others stand up for themselves. So yeah, that's how a fishing trip nearly turned into a federal case, and why sometimes standing up to a bully isn't just about you, it's about making the whole neighborhood a little bit braver. What about you? Ever been pushed around by someone drunk on power? Did you fight back, or would you do things differently now? Drop your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And if this fired you up, hit like and subscribe, because there are way too many stories out there waiting to be told, and together, maybe we can remind the world what real justice looks like.